Ladies, I think it's great to get a career, to go to college. I'm all for that. I think it's really good for a woman to have a solid sense of self, and to have just a good understanding of what she's good at, what she does well. So, I'm all for women going and pursuing a career or for doing the things that they love and enjoy. What I will say is what I don't like is this idea that you getting a career or you finding an industry that you like has to come at the expense of finding love. And I used to believe this. I fell into this notion. I fell into this idea of like, oh no, I can't find love, or oh, I can't be in a relationship until I've gotten myself to a certain place, or until I've secured a degree. And I remember even for a while, I kind of felt insecure around men because I was in school, or maybe I wasn't making a certain amount of money. Like I had this idea. I'm like, oh, okay, now I have to work a little bit more, or maybe make a little bit more money before I, am ready to even be in a relationship. And I look back on that now and I'm like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever believed. That's just so dumb. I'm like, and that shows me how much I was unaware of the opposite sex. I will say I didn't really grow up around brothers. I was grew up in a really, really strict household, so I wasn't allowed to date really at all in high school. Um, and then in college I was attending a church that was also rather strict, and so that kept any of my potential mating opportunities extremely limited. And so I spent a lot of time just kind of in the dark, groping in the dark, trying to figure out what the whole relationship thing meant. And as a result, I took on these ideas that just weren't really true. And the main thing that I will say that I believe and I know now to be true is that men, for the most part, don't really care about your career. Meaning, most men that I know, they're not going to necessarily, devalue you or look down upon you if you have an AA or high school or a master's degree. I mean, I think it's a nice to have, but from what I understand about men, what's way more important to them, to your degree or even the amount of money you make, is who you are. I mean, men are generally simple for the most part, and I'm speaking general. I'm not going to say this is every single man because, of course, there's always going to be an outlier. But the majority of men just want a woman who's going to be feminine, who's going to be friendly, who's going to be cooperative, and who they find attractive. That's it. Feminine, you know, um, cooperative or gets along well with them, attractive to them. Um, I mean, that's really it. I think Kevin Samuels calls it fit, feminine, friendly. Really simple, really basic. And so this is why you will see a guy. Sometimes you will see, and maybe even a high value man or a man with a lot of money. You will see him sometimes choose a airline stewardess over his colleague, his female colleague that's working with him, who very well may be qualified and who may be attractive. But maybe his female colleague she has this energy as if she's competing with him, as if, oh, well, I make as much money than you or more money than you, and it becomes a competition. And most men are attracted to women because men like women. Masculine likes feminine. So that has nothing to do with your career or your money. And the reason I say this is because I hear this more often than not. I want a guy on my level, right? And then there's this idea that a guy on your level is you making the same amount of money. And the issue with that is you are at when you say that, it's like you're valuing a guy a certain way, but you think that that guy is going to value you the same way, and that's not true. We as women generally value things differently than men value things. For example, anytime a woman gets in a relationship, I think what's really common, usually one of the first things that you hear is, oh, okay, so is he cute? Okay, so where does he work? You want to get a pulse of what does he do. Um, okay, did he go to college? Like depending upon your age, like let's say if you're maybe like, in your teens or early 20s, you're going to ask, okay, is he in college? Okay, what is his degree in? Okay, and then if you get a little bit older, maybe in your 20s, it's going to be, okay, what does he do? What does he do for a living? And then like the older you become, that becomes it. What does he do? Where does he work? Where does he live? Like it's all many of the times I feel like it's getting a sense of, okay, where is he at financially? And of course, we'll kind of ask the general, like, is he cute? Is he tall? Is he this or that? But once we get past all of those kind of fluffy details, it's okay, what kind of money is he making? 9 times out of 10, any time I've spoken with a woman, that's been it. That has been it. But I think when you hear men talking about a potential partner or mate, it's usually like, oh man, is she a baddie? It's a black man. Is she thick? Is she slim thick? Is she thick? Is she, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, looks and is she cool to be around? And that's it. That's it. Like, I mean, some may probe about other details, but generally speaking, it's like, we're valuing different things. Women, I don't know if there's some psychologists out there, or there's some studies out there that say women are hardwired to think about the security that a man provides, because biologically, we're nurturers. And there's a whole biology thing behind it that says women are looking for security because they're the ones that carry a baby. And so therefore they're looking for the best mating preference out there, because once they get pregnant, once they choose a partner, they have a lot more risk. And so there's science behind to back that says, okay, women are looking for security. But men, generally, it's, in theory, they don't have as much risk associated with a partner. So for them, it's just like, okay, she cute. She good to be around. She easy to be around. That's it. That's cool. That's that we can ride. It's not like, oh, what is she in college? Is she non-college? Is she making a lot of money? Does she not make a lot of money? Not to say there's dudes out there who don't think like that, but most men, that's not really their thought process. And so I think it's really important, if you're a woman with an education or that has a lot of money, is making a lot of money, or is seeking to be in a career that has a lot of money. I think that's great, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But it is important to recognize that if you're attracted to men, men for the most part don't necessarily see that as making you any more of value. It's a nice to have, but it's not the necessity for them. If you have an amazing career and you're making 7 figures, but they don't find you attractive, or they don't see you as cooperative or feminine, then it's not going to matter. But if you are cooperative, feminine, and attractive, it don't matter if you're making $2 a year or $2 million a year. Like, $2 million, that's a nice to have, but it's not a necessity. And so I think it's important as women, or women with careers or looking to be in careers and want to go to college or who want to pursue higher education, whatever. I think it's important to do that, but to also recognize how this is going to affect you in the sexual marketplace. And it won't really have any bearing. I think the only way it will have bearing is if you start to use that against a man. If you say, okay, well, I have a PhD, now therefore I need a man that makes 7 figures. But if you say that, but you're not willing to be feminine, you're not willing essentially to get on that man's program. I don't really know other way to say it, but you're not willing to support his vision, I think would be a better way of saying it. And he doesn't find you attractive, your PhD really doesn't matter. It just doesn't. It doesn't really matter to a lot of guys. It can be cool and it can be nice. And there's certain guys out there who they really like intellectual women, and so that's a big plus for them. But for most men, that's a nice to have. But a nice to have is not a necessity. What's a necessity is to be feminine, is to be friendly, right? It's for him to be attracted to you. And of course he's the one that has to decide that every man is generally, every man has their type. And for you to be easy to get along with. And, that of course there's personality types to that, but I want to dispel the myth that some women believe that the better education we get or the higher education we get, then the more desirable we are in the sexual marketplace or the more desirable we are to men. And that's not true because men value us differently than the way that we value them. We value men that way. Women generally value men based upon their assets and their education. It's not always like that, but many times it is. It's their, the older, especially the older we get, it's more based upon security. When we're younger, it tends to be the looks and the fire and the flame and the excitement. And then the more mature we get, then we want a guy who's secure and ideally who can also provide the fire and the flame and the looks. But security becomes more important, especially if there's kids in the mix. But men, that's never really their priority. And like I said, the only time a job or a career or those things gets in the way, it gets in the way if you use it against a man. If you use it as a way to say, I'm better for you, I'm more qualified than you. And the problem with that is if men are the consumer, that's not what they're consuming. They're not out there to consume a woman that has, a really, really high education or makes seven figures. They're out there to consume a woman that they, again, are attracted to, that they think is easy to get along with, and that's feminine. That's it. But what do you think? This is what I've learned over time. I'm sure there's going to be people out there who don't agree with me, and that's okay. That's okay. I didn't even agree. I wouldn't have agreed with this if I'd have heard this a few years ago. I would have felt like, this girl, she's kind of crazy. But just having lived a little and having, been in some relationships, and just the more I get to know men, the more I'm just like, wow, we really are created differently. And I think it's important that we recognize that not only do we think different, a lot of times we're even attracted to different things, different qualities, and that's okay. So let me know what you think. Leave your questions, comments, concerns, feedback in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can always support me on my Cash App, ChezCharde. And yes, we will talk later. Thank you.